Have you ever felt like there's gotta be a state of mind beyond the nonstop chatter and distraction we live with every day? Well, the earliest Buddhist texts talk about exactly that, a series of profound states of meditative focus called jhana. And here's the thing, they aren't some mystical, random occurrence. Nope, they're actually the result of a very systematic, very practical training for the mind. Today, we're going to unpack that exact blueprint.
All right, so here's our game plan for today. First up, we're going to get a really clear picture of the destination, what jhana actually is. Then we'll cover how you prepare the mind for the journey. After that, we dive into the engine of the whole practice, which is mindfulness. From there, we'll explore what it's like to actually arrive in the jhanas. And to wrap it all up, we'll see how this ancient blueprint is still incredibly relevant for our modern lives.
So, before we get into the how, we really need to nail down the what. What exactly is the state of meditative absorption we're even talking about? You know, the ancient texts don't just define it, they really paint a picture of what it feels like.
Just listen to that language for a second. Rapture and bliss born of seclusion. Now, that right there is the key. This isn't about gaining some new shiny thing. It's about the incredible peace that shows up when we just let go. When we let go of all that mental static, the cravings, the frustrations, the endless wanting. The joy is what's left over when the inner noise finally quiets down.
Okay, so let's be super clear. Jhana is not just spacing out or zoning out. Not at all. It's a state of mind that you deliberately cultivate. It's super focused, it's stable, and it's unified. You know, think of it less like a casual daydream and more like the mental state of an Olympic archer right before they let the arrow fly. Totally focused, powerful, and profoundly still.
So, the big question. How do we actually get there? This is the practical heart of it all. You hear people ask, how can I make these states happen? And the texts are completely unanimous on this one point. You don't just jump into deep meditation. You have to prepare the ground first.
And this, right here, gets to the absolute core of it. I mean, think about it. You can't spend your whole day endlessly scrolling on your phone, getting worked up about politics or office drama, and then expect your mind to just become perfectly still the second you sit down on a cushion. It just doesn't work that way. The training for jhana is a 24/7 practice, and it starts with how you live your life when you're not meditating. This whole idea of guarding the sense stores is a total game changer. Just look at the difference. On one hand, you have the unrestrained mind that's constantly reacting to everything. I want this, I hate that. It's exhausting, right? It just creates endless mental chaos. But a mind with sense restraint, it learns to just observe things without getting hooked. It's like putting up a screen door to keep the bugs out. And in that quiet space it creates, it finds this unsullied bliss. That's the stability you need to go deep.
Now, this ethical foundation is absolutely crucial, and it's not just about being a good person for the sake of it. Think about this purely practically. A mind that's carrying around guilt from a lie or some regret from something harsh it said, that's an agitated mind. It's a mind that just can't settle down. So, by committing to these principles, you're systematically pulling out the weeds of inner turmoil. You're creating a calm, stable, and trustworthy mind, which is the perfect launch pad for deep meditation. Okay, so the foundation is in place. We've built a stable ground with ethics and sense restraint. The mind is ready. Now we can fire up the core engine of the whole practice, mindfulness itself. This is the active training that takes that prepared mind and brings it all together.
So now you turn your attention inward, and the main tool, the anchor for your awareness, is the body, and more specifically, the breath. And why the breath? Well, because it's always here, right now. It's not in the past, it's not in the future. It is the perfect, most reliable object to train and steady our constantly wandering attention.
And what's so cool is that the ancient texts give these incredibly direct instructions. It's a clear step-by-step process. You start by simply feeling the mind as you breathe in and out. Then, you start to actively bring in positive states. You gladden the mind. As your focus gets stronger, you guide the mind into a state of deep, non-distracted concentration called samadhi. And ultimately, this whole process leads to freeing the mind. It's a systematic refinement of your attention, one breath at a time.
So what happens when all of this finally comes together? The preparation, the ethical conduct, the focused practice, what does it all lead to? Well, it leads to the breakthrough, the direct experience of a deeply unified and absorbed mind, the jhanas themselves.
The first jhana is pretty much the payoff for all that prep work. When your mind is finally free from what are called the 5 hindrances, you know, that constant pull of desire,
that background hum of irritation, that antsy restlessness, the heavy feeling of sleepiness, and that nagging voice of doubt, when those are finally quiet, this powerful sense of well-being, rapture, and bliss just naturally bubbles up. It's born of seclusion from those exact mental obstacles.
This simile for the second jhana is just brilliant, and it shows how the experience deepens. Notice the subtle shift here. In the first jhana, the bliss was born from being secluded from the hindrances. But now, in the second jhana, the bliss is born from the deep immersion, the concentration itself. The joy isn't about what you left behind anymore. It's a self-sustaining spring that's just welling up from within. That image of the lake is perfect. The joy comes from the depths of your own unified mind and just spreads through your entire being.
All right, let's zoom out for a second. We've walked through the whole process, from the setup to the peak experience. But what's the big picture here? Why does this ancient training manual for the mind still have so much to offer us today?
I think the most important thing to get is that this is a whole package deal. Jhana isn't some isolated trick you can learn on a weekend retreat. It's the natural result that happens when you cultivate the entire path. See how each part supports the others? Ethical living creates a stable mind. Sense restraint protects that stability. And mindfulness uses that stability to get to that deep, unified concentration. It all works together.
And that's really where the power is. This isn't a life hack or some promise from a 10-minute meditation app. It's a detailed, comprehensive blueprint for retraining our deepest cognitive and emotional habits. It's a path for systematically building a mind that is less reactive, more stable, much clearer, and ultimately, way more peaceful.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We've just looked at the map. It shows a clear path to profound inner peace through living ethically, managing our attention, and focused training. So the real question for you and for me is this. Even in our hyper-connected, crazy, fast-paced world, what parts of that ancient map can we use to better navigate our own inner landscapes?